There are so many terms, so much lingo, and almost pretty much its own language when it comes to homeschooling and home educating our children. Are you confused by all the things yet? Let's do a little clarification today, and we're going to talk about reverse planning. My goal in this episode is to give you some options, explain what this looks like, give you some ideas, what it can look like for your family. Maybe you're curious about it, or maybe you've been trying it out and want to see how you can make it work better for your family.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course, because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
We all have ideas and opinions. You have them, I have them. And when it comes to homeschooling, they are prolific. There is so many opinions about everything. And again, we have them. We talked about some opinions. In last episode, we talked about styles of homeschooling, and it's okay to have your opinions. I like to add, but don't allow your opinion to shame or to make anybody else who's homeschooling differently in whatever area it has to do with homeschooling. Not to make them feel bad about it. Don't let us think that we are higher or better than anybody else. But also on the flip side of that, don't hold your opinions so staunchly. Because you might be like me, who would be like, well, this is the best way. This is the only way anybody should homeschool. And here I am eating humble pie years later because my ideas changed. I started to research. I'm like, you know what? That actually might work. So don't hold too tightly to those opinions and ideas. But we all have them. And even with this, when it comes to planning, my goal today is to give you some ideas, and then your job is to run with it. What is it, though? It that you're going to run with will be whatever will work for your family right now. You are possibly already started your homeschool year, or you're about to start, or maybe you hold off a little bit. You might wait until next month, or I know families wait until October to get started because they're like, it's still so nice out in September where you live. No matter when you are starting your homeschool year, my goal is for you to just have some more information and then to run with what is best for your family. Now, I always felt like the weirdo, the odd man out when it came to homeschooling, and planning homeschooling. Not necessarily amongst my friend group, but when I would get on to blogs. Now, when I started homeschooling, that was really all there was. There wasn't the social media. Now you can get onto Instagram or Facebook and you can find so much information about homeschooling. But when I started, it was just blogs, and there was a lot talking about all of the planning. And so you can see that again. You can watch Instagram Reels and get ideas. You can read people's blog posts. You can listen to podcasts. You can watch videos all about how somebody plans. And I always felt like the odd one out because I didn't sit down at some point before the homeschool year and plan out the entire year. Now, I know that can, let's just say that some moms want to plan out, be hyper planning and have every day figured out for their homeschool year. And then some are a bit more loose. So there's going to be a spectrum. And I always leaned towards the more loose, but sometimes even beyond just the loose planning, because I just felt often like I'm the odd one out because I kind of know what days we're going to do homeschool, but I don't know what we're going to be doing each of those days. And this is where reverse planning can come into play. So I have done some reverse planning. I had no idea that others were doing it, and I had no idea that it was even called anything. Let's start off with some definitions. And when it comes to reverse planning, there is no one definition. There is no one right way to do it. I don't care what anybody says. There are great information videos, but I personally fall into the camp that one person's way of doing it is really great for them, and it might work for you, but it's okay if it doesn't. It's okay to take bits and pieces of what your friend does and bits and pieces of your favorite homeschool blogger and put those together. And guess what? you have a unique homeschool. That is the goal, is for you to have a unique homeschool that's best for your family. So reverse planning focuses more on writing down what you have done during your homeschool day afterwards. Now, some of you are like, oh my goodness, that you just, I don't know. You're over there really kind of freaking out about this. You're like, I can't do that. I have to write everything down beforehand. And that's okay. That's your personality. You can do that. There is a range that I see when it comes to reverse planning. So let's go with one side of the spectrum. And that is completely just writing down what you have done that day after the day is done. There isn't really necessarily a goal. And this might kind of go a little bit hand in hand with unschooling, we'll say at one end of it. And you just take a look. What did my child do today? Okay, they worked on science, and you write down a couple of things that they did with science because they were outside playing in the creek and they found a tadpole, and then you guys did some research on the tadpoles. And so it can be for all of the subjects, or you could do where you do reverse planning for some of the subjects and writing that down. Now, some of you are like, why are we writing things down after we do them? Again, this is going to be preference as to what you need to keep track of. You have to go back and read your homeschool regulations and figure out, do you need to write this down or not? Again, I often felt like the odd one out who didn't write much down as we went along. Spoiler alert, I never had a homeschool mom planner. There's some great ones out there. I just never used it. And I think that's okay. My kids did have assignment books that I would write out for them so that they knew what to do each day and to keep me on track. But I would do that during the week. But some moms go back and then they'll write down what you did during the day. Again, can run, again, there's going to be a spectrum. And you can leave things completely open, or you can choose some subjects. You might say, you know what, I want us to accomplish, I want to have some type of scope and sequence when it comes to the math and the language arts. But when it comes to history and science, art and music and their electives and physical education and all of the things, we are going to then go ahead and just look at what did we actually do? What do we feel like doing when it comes to physical education? In my state, we do have to meet some requirements for physical education. And because I'm in the thick of the high school years, I have to write that down. And I write down what that child has been doing. Did they play baseball? Did they play soccer? Did they pick up running? Did they join a gym? Did they go skiing? And so as far as I have to put in quarterly reports, and so it will change as per the season. I don't write skiing down for what we did in the fall because we didn't ski in the fall. They skied in the winter and then into the spring. So reverse planning let's go back to, it can run just kind of a gamut, and it's up to you. So you could have a homeschool mom planner. Maybe you enjoy getting a homeschool mom planner. You really like it. It helps you feel really good, especially at the beginning of the year. We love to be able to plan and get things organized. And instead of saying, this is what we are going to do this week, or this is what we are going to do this month, or the homeschool year, or every day or every week for the homeschool year, I'm going to just write down in the little blocks what each child did for those subjects after the fact. In some seasons, it's really hard for us to say, we're going to get 5 math lessons done this week. And you might not, because you just have a lot going on. Maybe you have a baby and your goal is, I think it's good to have goals. Your goal might be, okay, I would like them to get through 3 different math lessons. And so you wait till those days. You might have one day where the baby was up all night and it's just, things are not going well. Well, you're not going to get to the math that day. But the next day you do. So then you go ahead and write it in your planner. Sometimes it will work to just have that math book in saying, okay, today is the day we can do this. We can do lesson 1 today. Okay, it's not going so good. We didn't get to lesson 2 until 2 days later. And you never write it down in something. That's okay too. So this episode today, all of this information about reverse planning, we're going to assume that you want to keep notes, or possibly that you need to keep notes. And even if you live in a state that you are not required to keep any type of record, I would encourage you to keep a record at least for the high school years. When it came to elementary years, I would toss things after the year after I got my letter of completion, like letter saying that I was done with that homeschool year. I would start to toss some of the things. But when it comes to high school, I keep all of their high school stuff until I get a final letter. But even I've kept some of their work beyond that, just in case. Spoiler alert, we've never needed to show or prove or provide it for anything. But reverse planning will allow you a little bit more freedom. So in the episode title, I mentioned the word uncomplicate, because a lot of times we can come up with a plan and say, this is what we're going to do. And we know that life gets complicated. There's people involved in our lives, right? Things come up. Kids get sick. In-laws maybe need your help, or a fun field trip comes up. And here you have written in pen every day that you're going to do homeschool and every lesson that you're going to do. And then you realize, oh, wow, we can't do homeschool today because of XYZ reason. And I wrote this in pen. So that's why I also recommend writing it in pencil if it is a planning method that you're going to be planning beforehand. But in reverse planning, guess what? You can write in pen and you don't have to worry about pencil being smudged off. Now, in reverse planning, it's a good idea to have some type of goals, to have an idea as to what you want to do. So here is an example that I do in my family when it comes to morning time. We will read certain books. I have a couple of certain categories that I want us to accomplish. And under each category, at the beginning of the homeschool year, I will compile a list or a stack of books. I actually prefer just to have the books so I don't have to worry about the library. I don't have to worry about it not being there. I don't have to worry about us taking longer to read it. And so I will get those books. So say I have a stack of 10 books and I want to get through those 10 books for our morning time. So I have a goal, but I don't quite know the order that we're going to do, and I don't know how long it's going to take us to go through it. Will I read one chapter a day, or are the chapters short and I will read a couple of chapters? Or do some days we have time to read one chapter, but other days we have time to read a couple of chapters? Or maybe one chapter we find is too much, and so we need to just cut it down to half of a chapter because it's just too much information. That is something that you can definitely use. That method right there of reverse planning is writing down what you have accomplished afterwards. Or you don't have to necessarily write down, we read chapters 4 and 5 in this book that day. You can simply just check it off the list that you have accomplished. I just go and I cross it off the list or check it off or actually rewrite it on a separate list of the books that we have actually accomplished. So that's another way that you can work on some reverse planning, especially when you don't quite know how it's going to go. I like to give my kids choices when it comes to something like that. And so when I had all 3 kids, they would take turns choosing which book was next. Now that it's just me and my youngest, he completely gets to decide which book is next. And I say to him, we're going to get through all of these books. So maybe there's one you're not excited about. It'll be the last book we accomplish then, but that's okay. So that's another way you can set some goals of accomplishing things. And as the school year goes on, you can cross them off, check them off. You can write them in a box. You could write them just in a notebook if you want. One of the reasons why moms have come around to reverse planning and prefer it is because it is less stressful. And so going to the word of uncomplicated, it takes that complication level down. There is less stress with saying, oh, I want to accomplish all of these things this week or this month or this homeschool year down to the nitty gritty. And then what happens when you don't get to those points? And when you take some time at the end of the day and you look back on that day, you might realize that you have done a lot more than you thought you were going to do. And so it can have a really big impact upon your homeschool when mom is less stressed. And I think it can be a really good option when you're feeling overwhelmed. There are some seasons where you're saying, I don't have time to plan ahead. And so therefore you can take time at the end of the day. It doesn't have to take very long. And again, you don't have to be super particular and write down what pages they did. Maybe just overall what they have done, or just overall for something like science or history, what did you guys actually study? And just write down the topics. You don't necessarily have to always write down all the resources that you used, unless you are homeschooling high school and especially looking to have them go on to college when you have used different resources. Maybe you went through a course or a video series on YouTube. Well, write that down so that you have proof and you can show that, yes, we actually had something more than just us talking about it. We actually had something kind of guiding our discussion. One thing that homeschool moms really enjoy about reverse planning, and again, you don't have to do it completely, but I would suggest maybe at least taking a look at what your kids, when it comes to outside of possibly your formal curriculum and your formal homeschool hours. It really helps moms to see, wow, my kids are learning a lot more than I thought they were learning. And it can really just take the weight off of homeschool when you start to realize that all of life is actually homeschool. All of life is education, especially for kids. They are curious and they want to know more and they want to research more and they want to get out there. They want to check things out. And so it can really help you to feel like, a bit of relief and not have carry this heavy burden all the time, that you can go ahead and look and you can say, oh, they actually are doing so much more than I thought they were. That is a number one thing that a lot of moms who reverse plan start to realize, that they are doing more than they think that they were. So what do you think? Reverse planning something that you're interested in? Is it something that you have been doing? Again, this is just kind of scratching the surface. You can go ahead and do a lot more research. And reverse planning can be used with any style of homeschooling, I think. Maybe to a degree, it might not work with some parts of some styles, but I think that it really could fit in if this is something that you feel like I need to uncomplicate and I need to add a little bit, take away some of the stress in my family. It can work with any goals that you might have. It can work with any curriculum that you have. It can work with any school calendar, or just, I'm not saying it has to be set days and stuff, but however you want to do it. Maybe you want to have set days or you want to have a kind of overall feeling for it. It doesn't matter. You got to do you, okay? But it can work with any of those. And you and I can work together on figuring out all of that part of the planning and all that I just mentioned, the style, the goals, the curriculum, and your calendar, how that's set up. We can do that together in your homeschool blueprint. You can get more information at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/blueprint. So now you have a new term that you can put in your back pocket and pull it out when you want, and you can kind of show it off to some of your homeschool mom friends, and guess what? They'll be super impressed. All right, friend, have a good day.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.